Good morning, everybody. How is everyone today? Good? Good. All right. I got thumbs up. Well, kind of based on the topic today, the Ruby's going to talk about. I want to talk about it too. How many of us are Star Trek fans? Yes, I grew up on Star Trek, man. The technology, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was growing up. But the technology they had then is kind of coming true. You got the communicator and the famous line, beam me up, Scotty. You've got I think that 3D printers are a precursor to the replicators that they had. You want chicken noodle soup, you slip in the card and boom, chicken noodle soup for lunch. So that technology, I used to make my own, and maybe some of you did too. I'd make my fake Star Trek stuff and play Star Trek when I was a kid. But what if aliens came to Earth physically? I know they're here, but what if they came and approached Earth? Here, I'm going to read this article. It's about geopolitical implications of a successful SETI program. SETI is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Is that how they go? SETI. Cool. That's cool. So what would nation states do in response to a signal from alien intelligence? Would they compete for status and control the message, or hope to gain some technological advantage from its contents? Or would the world shrug its shoulders and move on? I doubt it. An ET or ETI, extraterrestrial intelligence, would likely have an enormous technological advantage over us. And as long as the ETI wasn't malicious, that advantage presents an opportunity to nations. If a government monopolizes communications with the ETI, it could gain a technological edge. Imagine China, Russia, or the USA coveting that technological advantage. We think we're the good guys. It's like, boy, we hope they come here instead of there. Or North Korea or Iran. This is the realpolitik lens. That the authors examined in these papers. Ruby Tingle has been a registered nurse for over 50 years. She met Audle Allison in 1978 and has continued the study and practice of his teachings ever since. She's now herself a teacher of the Kriya Yoga lineage, as taught by Babaji. As a voracious reader of everything from science fiction and time travel to the technology associated with energy medicine, her mind has expanded to embrace many perspectives. This morning, Ruby will share her experience of first contact with the Pleiadeans and the subsequent adventures she had. She will describe her many wonderful moments of joy and validation from her experiences with our interdimensional, intergalactic family of light in the multiverse. Get them to be on our side. The title of Ruby's talk is Another Perspective.
To feel so that you can know it for yourself. And as we do that, let us use the breath as a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical. Breathing in through the nose, filling the lungs, and out through the mouth. Don't control the out breath. Using the silent syllable ha. Ha is the syllable for the heart. It helps to open, soften, and heal. Now we'll add one step to that. And when you're at the apex of your deep breath, as much air in your lungs as you can get, sniff 3 times pretty hard. And just breathe normally. Do a little bit of that when you think about it. Roll the eyes up, keeping the eyelids closed, as though you're looking out the top of your head or back into your own pineal gland. This helps to lift us out of the ego personality and into the divine. Placing consciousness and feeling in that golden flame. Allow the hand of creator and creation to pour a tube of sparkling gold glitter in through the top of the head that flows all through the body, exiting the hands and the feet. Keep consciousness at the top of the head and just allow this process. You don't have to make it do anything. My Father, he doeth the work, I just let. And allow this Christed golden light of purification to release sadness, sorrow, doubt, fear, anger, worry, all that banana stuff that separates us from our divine self, so that you can just sit at the top of the head and receive that divine inflow from creator and creation. It's always there. We just tune into it like a channel on a TV. Rolling the eyes up, feeling that golden flow. Let each out breath take you deeper and deeper into the center of the top of the head, where you can have an experience and meet the beauty of grace. Grace meets us where we are and uplifts us. And giving your own little inner prayer of great gratitude in this light. Allow yourself to see, feel, and become this light. Inner radiance like the sun. Loving unconditionally. And just to seal this in, let's Om 3 times. Om. 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 Beautiful. And we can keep this feeling anytime. I'm happy with the lights off, but if you need to turn it on, you can. Maybe we're supposed to stay in the dim. That's fine. Okay, that's plenty. Let's just, I love this quiet, sweet, warm Grand rising to you all. That's my substitute for the programmed good morning. It sounds like an oxymoron because of the spelling, spell. You could say good morning, and it's also Mourning. So I picked this phrase from Queen Ramana Digilo, and she says, grand rising, everyone. It's so much more of an indication of up and at 'em, rising with the sun. We're walking each other home on this grand journey of adventure called life. So most people who know me as a meditation teacher from the Lotus Center, but I have a lot of facets to life and have had some fun adventures. And so a different perspective or another perspective, any of you could get up here and be this. It would all be another perspective. And perspective and truth are friends. Truth and freedom is what I have sought and served all my life. And it keeps me in a happy place. I was born happy. It's kind of like cheating. I'm not going to apologize. But even in my nursing career, it was like, oh, can't handle that energy. She's just a little too happy. And no, I'm not on anything. Because when you're really in the flow of yourself and who you are one with that which created us. And so I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. Don't shoot the messenger. We all have a different perspective that is true, depending on our experience and where we float in the timelines. And I'm probably going to say a few things that you haven't heard before, or use some phrases or some words. I'll try to leave a few moments for questions and answers because I would love to do that. I'm going to give you just a short little autobiography. I am 71. I was born in the body of Christ, quite literally, Corpus Christi, Texas. I have been an RN since I was 21, so that's 50 years, and I still have a license. And I do that because I love to do hospice. It is an honor and a privilege to be an escort. And that could be another whole lecture. But just to let you know, I'm not a flibberty gibber, totally always out of my body kind of person. I did work in ICU, CCU, neurosurgical ICU for 30 years in the hospital, and I would escape in between to hospice. And became a certified legal nurse consultant, certified case manager, certified gastroenterology RN, and a registered massage therapist. No, I'm not an overachiever. I just, have to keep busy to stay out of the bowling alleys. Okay. So I met Audley in 1978, and I became a Kriya student. And then I taught downhill snow skiing in Red River, New Mexico in the winters. And then in the summer, I would come here to Oklahoma City to study with him. I worked at the old Presby University Hospital. And then when I, through my career, went into endoscopy, I traveled. So I spent a year and a half in Alaska, drove up there and back by myself. People said, weren't you afraid? And I'm going, of what? Well, you were alone. I'm never alone. I'm always with God. If God be with us, who can be against us? So, and that's why we're all here. And it is just such a thrill to see and feel this group, because it is consciousness like this that raises the whole globe. There is so much division. When you get a perspective of the big picture, not only is it very humbling, it's very opening, so that we're not against them and for us. There is no them. There is no us. There's only one. And we're all connected. As the Native Americans say, Matakwiyasi, we are all related. And I want to talk about Earth in its relation to the universe. Gaia, Mother Earth, has a precious body that was put together not by accident. Everything that happens on Earth is in the web of the galaxy and the galaxies and the universe that we occupy space in. And let me get a disclaimer here. This is all in my experience and understanding. And I would ask that everyone just temporarily let go of everything you think you believe, and also your disbelief. Just open your mind, and as Greg Braden says, allow for the possibility, because that will move you through. And if there's anything I love to do, is I love to see people move through. Okay, so my first contact, what that I have conscious recollection of, because as a kid, I also read lots and lots of Greek and Roman mythology. It seemed like home to me. And then at 11, when I started experiencing past lifetime stuff, because these books and these stories would trigger that stuff, I go, oh, okay, I got it. And so about 96, there was a group of people who put on events called Whole Life Expo. And I was living in Austin at the time. Now that could be the center of the self-help universe. And so I volunteered to work at the Whole Life Expo because I wanted to meet Neil Donald Walsh. And I was a room monitor. And I did not even know who Barbara Marciniak was. She is the woman who has written Bringers of the Dawn. And the book that I resonate the most with is The Path of Empowerment. The Path of Empowerment. If you've never read that book, read it. It was written, 30, 40 years ago, but it's just now relevant to where we can move into consciousness with it. So I sat on the end with a sign, 10 minutes to go. But what I didn't know was that Barbara actually channeled the Pleiadeans. Now, on the other side of the veil, which is we're in the third dimension. And if dimension is the word that we linearly think. So if you'll change that word in your head to frequency, we're in the third dimensional frequency, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The archangels are about 12 and 13. They move through space much differently than our beloved family of light. I like to refer to them as extra celestials. They don't really like the term ET. But anyway, so Barbara says, when I go up and introduce myself like Mike did, moderator, she said, don't touch me while I'm channeling. I say, no problem. I'm just going to be sitting over there. She said, say P's or Pleiadians, you have 10 minutes. I said, okay. So she sits down and rings this dorji-like bell, like the Tibetan kind of bell. Her head comes back, and then I felt them. Sweet, deep, ancient, totally present energy. And they kind of came down through her crown chakra, through her throat. And she sort of opened her eyes, but they settled down into her body. And I say they because the advanced beings of light are a collective consciousness. They have individual unit of thinking, and it's not a hive mind, but it's a shared heart. It's a very loving presence. These are like the Pleiadians. The Pleiadians are actually our DNA grandparents. They are fifth dimensional beings. Sixth and seventh dimensional beings are the Arcturians. And then you have the Orions, the Lyrans, and they all have different bodies. Allow for the possibility that Star Wars was real and Star Trek is a documentary. You're laughing, but go back and watch a few episodes with a new perspective, and you'll see a lot of information that you may not have paid too much attention to before. And so she said her voice changed, her face changed, and her countenance was most beautiful. It was very glowing. Now, if I hadn't seen this with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. So that's what I'm saying. Allow for the possibility. So she gave a little lecture about how beloved you are. You can't believe or understand the depth of feeling that humans inspire in other beings, because we chose to incarnate here at this time to provide support for a huge shift in mass consciousness. And that is the Christed consciousness. Unconditional loving, don't want to hurt anybody. You know, we're everyone just as important as the other. And so when Barbara finished her little lecture, she opened for questions and answers. And it was so funny because her eyes were closed, but when somebody said something, she would go like that. And so when I said, Pleiadeans, you have 10 minutes, she turned toward me and slightly inclined her head. And I'm very aware of the silver cord that comes down from God's home and puts life and breath in the human body. When they touched my stream, it was a very beautiful, humbling, embracing experience. It's something you have to feel for yourself to believe, but boy, it made a believer out of me. And I was just like, wow, what just happened? And so she said, or they said, thanks. But I'm just going, zzz. And so the lecture ended and we said our goodbyes and we went on. So I'm driving across the bridge at South Congress, if you've ever been to Austin, and the Pleiadians came in and they said, Ruby, we would like for you to disseminate information for us. And I said, what does that look like? And they said, much like what Barbara does. She's written a book and she goes around talking. And I said, I am so honored and I thank you very, very much. But I'm already part of another experiment in human consciousness. And I think it would be best to keep it pure. They knew exactly what I was referring to. I'm a student of Babaji's. I work directly with those ascended masters. I've been teaching and assisting Dana in her school. She came here to speak. And so they said, very well, we understand. And so I didn't hear too much about him for several years. And then I started reading The Path of Empowerment. A lot of books, when you start to read them, put your brain waves in a certain pattern. Like so many people have read Autobiography of a Yogi. And then when you start to yearn for that feeling, that oneness with God, Babaji will come to you. Well, Path of Empowerment for me was one of those books. It put my brain waves in a receptive place where they came back in. So I have a friend who's 85. He's Native American shaman. He's extremely psychic. I've known him for 40 years. His name is Carl. And so Carl is a fabulous medium. He talks to dead people. We've worked with people who have lost loved ones and didn't have closure. But anyway, so we began to communicate with this lovely Pleiadian being. And I said, well, what's your name? And he said, well, you couldn't pronounce it. And this is me and Carl talking to him. And I said, well, Carl, what's he look like? And Carl says, well, he looks like a shadow. And the being said, well, that's a fine name. Y'all could just call me Shadow. And so Shadow directed that if I could get 6 people in the Friends of the Lotus to read The Path of Empowerment, we would have a study group and discuss it. But that didn't come together because it wasn't time, and I'm at peace with that. But okay, so off and on, Carl and I meditated together for years. And so once in a while, we would get this urge to visit our family of light. Well, in this Kriya Yoga school, you spend years building your consciousness, going into oneness in your own divine self. You also build bodies of light that you can travel full conscious in, not astral projection. It's going in and out through the top of the head, which is really the only place you want to come and go. And so I said, well, I want an experience in a mothership. And so we asked Shadow and Babaji if that were possible. Well, of course, no problem. And if you have the sight to see, there are hundreds of thousands of cloaked ships right outside the Earth's atmosphere, because nobody really knows how this shift is going to take place. But what I understand is that, and some of them are like 65 miles long, but they're parked in another frequency. That's why they have to lower their frequency for us to see them. And don't ask for them before you're ready. Most of them have beautiful forms, but they're forms that we're not used to seeing. And there is a universal language besides light language. It's telepathy. It's part of our human DNA that has been turned off, that is coming back online. Have you noticed that your intuition has increased lately? Even if it's like knowing who's calling when the phone rings, or better not go down that street. Well, there are a lot of things in the shift that are coming back that are ours, that are humans, that have been manipulated and programmed away. Telepathy, teleportation, telekinesis, all of those things belong to us by birth. They have been stolen, but we are fixing to retrieve them. And it will be a universal and a global happening. For people who do not believe in extracelestials, UFOs, things are fixing to get weird. But it is all for your betterment. There is nothing to worry about. We are being assisted. Prime directive is don't interfere with an evolving species. Well, we were interfered with by some very malevolent beings a long time ago. And they have been physically on our planet. 2 years ago, Creator said, okay, enough is enough. They have to leave. So for the last 2 years, everybody from archangels to special forces to people in deep underground military bases have been pushing these invaders off of our planets, freeing our consciousness. And of the 7.2 billion people on the planet right now, over 2 billion of us hold Christ consciousness, whether in our hearts, whether in our heads, and sometimes in our gut. But it's raised the vibration of the whole planet. And we are in for a new way of living, a new way of thinking, and a new way of knowing. I do want to, do I have 5 minutes? Okay. I do want to say a little bit about James Gilliland. I went to a conference called Camp Disclosure a couple of Augusts ago up in Flat Rock, North Carolina. He was the keynote speaker, and I met him. James is one of the most authentic people I have ever met. He is the real deal. He's been filming ships for 30 years. You go out to his ranch, Iseti, which stands for enlightened contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Let's see, enlightened contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, ESETI. And so when he did a Star Watch party to teach us how to look at the stars, to identify movement that was spaceship. You contact with them telepathically and they'll power up. And there's this great glow around them and you can see it. They'll just move, and sometimes they'll move in different directions. You can tell they're ships. They don't move like anything else. And you too can do it. But herein lies a word of caution. Mostly the extra celestials that are around us right now are benevolent. But be careful and very discriminating when you say, I would like to have contact. You can't be scared. You can't film them. You can't take pictures. And you have to be open to knowing the vibration. James Gilliland has a YouTube channel, ECETI. And I recommend that you go there if you're interested. He gives a very good calling for them. You always want to set your space, calling for the highest vibration, rebuking any of the lower vibrations, and ask for an experience. They're available to us. They love us. Even Archangel Michael calls us the glorious ones, because many, many beings wanted to be on the planet at this time for this shift, but only the bravest came. And my beloved Audley always said, you want to see an alien? Look in the mirror. So, namaste. Do I have time for questions and answers? Okay, all right. I'll answer as best I can. Any questions?
Yeah.
Do I astral travel? No, astral is, to my way of thinking, when people are laying down and they come out of their life power center and they don't have control or awareness or discrimination. And they're sort of at the mercy of some beings of light aren't exactly benevolent. Just because you're an extraterrestrial doesn't mean you're enlightened. Just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened. So you have to discriminate. So how I travel is that in our school, Babaji gave my teacher a 7-year school to bring people through into enlightenment. And when you learn to leave your body, purify through the Christ Buddha consciousness, and go into the Adam Godhead light, you're in a white sphere, but it's just like I'm here in the room. You can see, you can feel, sometimes you can even smell. And it's it's full conscious, full knowing, full understanding, pure mind energy. It's a full experience. And I didn't even talk about the trip that Carl and I had up in the ship. It was like a reunion. We went up in our light bodies, Babaji, and the other side calls Yeshua Sananda. I call him Cousin Isa because I remember being in the village. There were 70 people that traveled with Yeshua that 4 years. And so quite a few of this soul family has come back together for this purpose of raising consciousness and being consciousness. And by the way, there isn't really anything you have to do. You just be. You just shine your light where you are, and your mission is accomplished.
I would say, I would see celestials. And just now that I've heard what you said, it makes sense. It's like if they're dozen frequencies above us, it's like, why would they want to go back to that primitive way of appearing in person?
They do, Mike, because they love us. And what I hear is, don't call us before you're ready. Be careful what you pray for. Because when James was taking us out to teach us how to watch for the star party, he called in all these beings. And that was one way I knew he was real, because he called in Babaji. And I'm very familiar with that energy. I know who that feels like. I know who Audley feels like. He also called in these 18-foot tall lions that walk upright. They're kind of the guardians of the universe. They're from Lyra. They're feline. And they're beautiful, but man, they're big. And they were like doing cartwheels and handsprings, and they were just being silly little clowns. So you wouldn't be afraid of them. And even the archangels will lower their vibrations so that you can feel them. It would be like you had your eyes closed and you see a reverse negative kind of on the back of your eyelids. They will come to you. Some things have to be believed to be seen. And they don't mind lowering their vibration, but it's not a fun and games things. And things are really serious right now because of this shift in mass consciousness. But the love is amazing. And open yourself to the love, because that's the frequency they travel on. And you're a very light, loving being. You shouldn't have any problem at all. Just make sure that you're sitting up, your spine is straight. You want to close off like this, palms down, thumb and finger circle, and your ankles crossed. What this does, and this is our meditation position, it closes you off as a bioelectrical mechanical unit of consciousness, so that what you're with is the life force that comes from God's home in through the top of your head, with no outside interference. And you have to be very clear, because it's like, I do not consent for lower vibration influences. That's not to scare you. That is to make you prudent. Because if you have a burning, yearning desire in your heart for God, that spirit will come upon you. If you have a burning, yearning love and desire in your heart to have an experience with an extra celestial, really the angels are easier to see and to be with. But Pleiadians will come, but you kind of have to flow on their vibration. So just grab that book by Barbara Marciniak called Path of Empowerment and give it a read. It's got lots of wisdom in it. And even if they don't come to you in your eyeball sight, they'll come to you in your heart sight or your pineal gland sight, not the third eye. We put a Band-Aid on that because it's kind of lower frequency booger land. If you can see them, they can see you. So we keep up here at the Buddha Christ eye. If you want to look upon a situation and have a little bit of a wall there, a fence, a low one, look from the Buddha eye. It doesn't judge, it just observes. And this is the difference between judgment and observation. If you have an emotional attachment to what you're looking at, that's a judgment. If you can just look at it and say, oh, that's their situation, and just honor that journey of that being, whatever it is, you don't engage. Because what you judge, you're open to entanglement.